Shalom. All praise to Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Double honor to the elder GMS. Shalom to the brothers up there pushing truth and sincerity. My name is Amna Allah, and with me I have
Karate Zagba.
And we're gonna finish the act, continue the act show. See, we wasn't gonna finish it because it was done so long ago. I was thinking about just leaving it there. If brothers wanted to continue researching, they could do it on their own. But my brother came to me about a couple weeks ago and said we should finish it. So, we're gonna finish it now. We're gonna finish the part we left off, Lord willing, through the Spirit, because the camera had cut off, and also Lord willing, and proceeding, the following weeks, rather we'll continue it off. Now, you can get that.
Alright, this is Acts chapter 17, verse 23.
Mm-hmm.
For as I passed by and beheld your devotion,
Start right there. It said, beheld your devotion. Now this is the blue letter Bible, right? That's Acts 17:23. We're gonna look at this word devotion in the Greek. See what this word is in the Greek for devotion.
Strong's G 4574. Sebasma. Sebasma.
Sebasma. Let's see what it says. Whatever is religiously honored, an object of worship, of temples, altars, statues, and idolatrous images. Now, if you brothers watched the previous shows, you will know that the Apostle Paul was in Athens, a place that was wholly given into idolatry, so it was idolatry everywhere. And as he went to these Epicureans, to these Stoics, he said he beheld their devotions, which devotion in the Greek is sebasma, which is whatever is religiously honored, an object of worship, of temples, altars, statues, and idolatrous images. So in other words, these Epicureans, these Stoics, these Greek philosophers, which are Israelites, a part of the Greek philosophies, they had devotion to these different temples, altars, statues, and idolatrous images that you will find in Athens, like the Acropolis and the Areopagus, which is Ares Hill. Ares Rock, or Rock of Ares, Hill of Ares. So read that again.
It's Acts 17:23. For as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I found an altar with this inscription, to the unknown God.
Right. He said he found this altar with this inscription, to the unknown God. Now this is, let's look at the word inscription real quick. See what that says right there. This is inscription.
Strong's G 1924. Epigrapho. Epigrapho.
The word there in the Greek for inscription is epigrapho, which is to write upon, inscribe, metaphorically to write upon the mind. So he found these different images that was inscribed to the unknown God. Right? He found these different images that was prescribed to the unknown God, written on it to the unknown God, because it said altar with this inscription. So there was an altar written on it to the unknown God. It said with this inscription, meaning it was written upon the altar to the unknown God in Greek. Now this is a web page, because the brother just read that to the unknown God. Now this is a web page called www.princeton.edu. This is unknown God. I'm gonna read this since I got it right before me. It says, in addition to the 12 main gods, we read this on the last show, part 7, 8, 9, and 10. You can get into the deep understanding of what's leading up to this part right now. But it says in the last parts of Casting Down Imaginations, part 7, 8, 9, and 10. But it says, in addition to the 12 main gods and the innumerable lesser deities, ancient Greeks worshipped the deity they called Agnostos Theos, that is the unknown God. In Athens, there was a temple specifically dedicated to that god, and very often Athenians would swear in the name of the unknown God. Apollodorus, Philostratus, and Pausanias wrote about the unknown God as well. The unknown God was not so much a specific deity, but a placeholder for whatever god or gods actually existed, but whose name and nature were not revealed to the Athenians or the Hellenized world at large. Now it said Apollodorus, Philostratus, and Pausanias wrote about the unknown God as well. Now let's see if you can find out who some of these people are. We're going to deal with Pausanias. This is Wikipedia. It says Pausanias, AD 110 AD to 180 AD, was a Greek traveler and geographer of the 2nd century AD who lived in the times of Hadrian, Antonius Pius, and Marcus Aurelius. He is famous for his description of Greece, a lengthy work that describes ancient Greece from first-hand observation. So Pausanias was what? A Greek traveler and geographer during the 2nd century AD. And he was famous for with a lengthy work that he had written called The Description of Greece, which describes ancient Greece from first-hand observations. What he described at first-hand. What he described what he's seen at first-hand. And there's a crucial link between classical literature and modern archaeology. Now let's see if we can go into his description of Greece. This is www.theoi.com, www.theoi.com. Now this is Pausanias' description of Greece. We're not going to read the whole thing because there's a lot of information. I'm just going to jump right to the point. At this particular part right here, he's speaking about Piraeus. Matter of fact, I'm just going to read it anyway. It says Piraeus. The Piraeus was a parish from early times, though it was not a port before Themistocles became an archon of the Athenians. Let's see what Piraeus is. This is Wikipedia. You can read this right here. This highlighted part.
All right, Piraeus. Okay, is a port city in the region of it's like Attica, Greece. Piraeus is located within the Athens urban area.
So it was a port city, meaning it's located near the water. So he's describing things that he's seen entering Greece. Go ahead.
It says 12 kilometers, 7 miles southwest from its city center. All right, and lies along the east coast of the Saronic Gulf.
Right. So the Piraeus was a port city in the region of Attica, Greece. That's what Piraeus was. So now, in his description of Greece, focusing on Piraeus, what Pausanias is describing is Greek traveler and Greek geographer during the second century AD. What he's describing is what it was that he's seen entering the port city of Greece. Matter of fact, I have something else here as well. This is I'm gonna read this right here. This is Wiki Travel. The Piraeus is the ancient port of Athens and still functions as a chief exit point from the city by sea for destinations amongst the Aegean Islands. And elsewhere in the East Mediterranean, domestic destinations include all Domestic destinations include all the Aegean Islands except the Sorparades and some smaller Cyclades and Dodecines Isles that require connection. International destinations include Cyprus and the Middle East. So you know that Piraeus is a port city in ancient Greece, which is still a port city today. Okay? Because it said it still functions as a chief exit point from the city by sea. And let's go back to the description of Greece. No, I'm gonna jump right to the let's see, I'll continue reading. Their port was Phalerum, for at this place the city comes nearest to Athens, and from here men say that Menestheus set sail with his fleet for Troy, and before him Theseus, when he went to give satisfaction to Minos for the death of Androgeos. But when Themistocles became archon, since he thought that the Piraeus was more conveniently situated for mariners, and had 3 harbors as against one at Phalerum, he made it to the Athenian port. Even up to my time, there were docks there, near the largest harbor in the grave of Themistocles. For it is said that the Athenians repented of their treatment of Themistocles, and that his relations took up his bones and brought them from Magnesia, and the children of Themistocles suddenly returned and set up in the Parthenon a painting on which is a portrait of Themistocles. Okay? The most noteworthy site in the Piraeus, this port where he's entering in Greece, is a precinct of Athena and Zeus. Both their images are bronze, which bears witness to the earlier verses in Acts 17 chapter where it says, when Paul entered Athens, the city was given to idolatry. And if you watch the beginning parts, like the first 4, 5 parts, 6 parts of the show, the Apostle Paul casting down imaginations, you would understand what Paul had seen entering that place. Alright, all different images. But both the images are bronze. Zeus holds a staff in the victory, Athena a spear. Here is a portrait of Theosthenes and of his sons, painted by Arcelius. This Theosthenes at the head of the Athenians and the united Greeks defeated the Macedonians in Boeotia, and again outside Thermopylae forced them into Lemia over against Oeta and shut them up there. The portrait is in the long portico where stands a marketplace for those living near the sea. Those farther away from the harbor have another, but behind their portico near the sea stand a Zeus and a Deimos, a work of Leocharis, and by the sea Conon built a sanctuary of Aphrodite after he had crushed the Lacedaemonian warships of Cnidus in the Carian Peninsula. For the Cnidians hold Aphrodite in very great honor, and they have sanctuaries of the goddess. The oldest is to her as Dorotis Bountiful, the next in age as Acrea of the height, while the newest is to Aphrodite called Cnidian by men generally, but Eupolia fair void by the Cnidians themselves. Now here's the part I wanted to get to. The Athenians have also another harbor at Munichia, with a temple of Artemis of Munichia, and yet another at Phalerum, as I have already stated. And near it is a sanctuary of Demeter. Here there is also a temple of Athena Scyrus, and one of Zeus some distance away, and altars of the gods named unknown. So this man Pausanias, this Greek traveler and Greek geographer during the 2nd century AD, in his lengthy work called the Description of Greece, he wrote about things that he had seen entering Greece through the Piraeus, a port city. And he said, what? Here is also a temple of Athena Scyrus, and one of Zeus some distance away, and altars of the gods named unknown, and of heroes, and of children of Theseus and Phalaris. That's all we need to get on. That's all we got to get on there. So that goes to show you that what was written here in the scriptures in Acts 17:23 about the altars with the inscription to the unknown God is actually true, because this man right here who actually existed, he said in his own work, the Description of Greece, that he's seen altars of Zeus, Athena, and altars of gods named unknown. Now let's go back. And in fact, before we go back to that particular document, I'm gonna read on in that paragraph, then I'm gonna continue on other people who mention the unknown God. This is back in the Princeton EDU. The unknown God was not so much a specific deity, but a placeholder for whatever god or gods actually existed, but whose name and nature were not revealed to the Athenians or the Hellenized world at large. Now this is Calmet's Dictionary of the Holy Bible, right? And this is when you look up altar. Now when you read it, I'm just going to get right to it. It says, altar at Athens, inscribed to the unknown God. Paul discoursing in that city on the resurrection of the dead was carried by some of the philosophers before the judges of the Areopagus, where he used this expression. Ye men of Athens, I perceive you all too superstitious. I'm going to jump right down. Right, and he says, I found an altar with this inscription to the unknown God, as you just read. And it says, the question is, what was this altar thus consecrated to the unknown God? Jerome, which is a so-called church father, I believe in the 3rd or 4th century AD, says that it was inscribed to the gods of Asia, Europe, and Africa, to the unknown and strange gods, and that the apostle uses this singular form because his design was only to demonstrate to the Athenians that they adored an unknown God. Jumping down, it says, others conceived that this, I'm just going to skip to get right to the points. Others conceived that this altar was the one mentioned by Pausanias and Philostratus, who speak of altars at Athens consecrated to the unknown gods. Lucian, in the dialogue attributed to him, entitled Philopatris, swears by the unknown God at Athens. He adds, being come in the Philopatris, that was a writing of a man named Lucian. It says, by the unknown God at Athens. He adds, being come to Athens and finding there the unknown God, we worshipped him and gave thanks to him with hands lifted up to heaven. So these are actual people who actually existed, who were writing works of what they've seen in Greece, in Athens, altars to this unknown God that the Apostle Paul is speaking of, mentioned in the book of Acts 17th chapter. Okay, it says another statement is made by Peter Comestor, he relates that Dionysius the Areopagite, observing while he was at Alexandria, the eclipse which, contrary to nature, happened at the death of our Savior, from thence concluded that some unknown God suffered. You know, and not being then in a situation to learn more matter. That's really it. That's all we really need. So that's two accounts of this. That's two accounts of people who have written on this about this unknown God. Lucian and his fellow Patris were about the unknown God, and Pausanias in his description of Greece also wrote about the unknown God. Now let's go back to this webpage www.princeton.edu. It says, according to a story told by Diogenes Laertius. Now let's see who this is. Diogenes Laertius. We can read this right here.
Diogenes, how you pronounce the last name?
Diogenes Laertius.
Diogenes Laertius was a biographer of the Greek philosophers.
Yeah, he was a biographer of Greek philosophers. Go ahead.
Nothing is known about his life, but his surviving lives and options of
opinions.
Lives and opinions of eminent philosophers is a principal source for the history of the Greek philosophy.
So Diogenes Laertius was a biographer of Greek philosophers, and it says none is known about his life, but his lives and opinions of eminent philosophers, and the principal source for the history of Greek philosophy. So this man was a Greek biographer. He was a biographer of Greek philosophers. Let's see what he says. According to a story told by Diogenes Laertius, Athens was once in the grips of a plague and desperate to appease the gods with the appropriate sacrifices. Now, if you brothers want to know about that, you gotta go back to the last show. Part 7, 8, 9, 10, but it's only about 35 minutes altogether. 40 minutes maybe. You know about the Cylonian affair, so on and so forth. And the coup, the coup d'etat. Thus, Epimenides gathered a flock of sheep to the Areopagus. Let's see what the Areopagus is. Okay. You can read this right here.
Alright.
This is Wikipedia, Areopagus. Go ahead.
Alright, Areopagus is the composite.
And if you look right here, it says Romanized to Mars Hill. Go ahead.
Areopagus is the composite form of the Greek name Areospagos, translated Ares Rock.
Yeah, translated Ares Rock.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It is northwest of the Acropolis in Athens. In classical times, it functioned as the high court of appeal for criminal and civil cases.
Right. So it functioned as a high court of appeal for criminal and civil cases. So the Areopagus was a place that actually existed. And in ancient times, it functioned as what? As a high court of appeal. And when you go deeper into it, you'll find that the Apostle Paul was being taken to a court, to the Areopagus. All right. I don't want to spoil it. Then the next show, you'll find that out. You'll find out why. But go ahead. Read that part again.
Okay. In classical times, it functioned as a high court of appeal for criminal and civil cases. Ares was supposed to have been tried here by the gods for the murder of Poseidon's son. How do you pronounce that? Elarotios.
Now, he was Ares was supposedly tried there for the murder of Poseidon's son. Now, why do they say that? Now, here's a webpage called www.netplaces. I'm gonna read this. .netplaces, right? It says tried for murder. It says it probably comes as no surprise that Ares, in light of his hunger for blood and destruction, was once put on trial for the murder of Elarotheos, the son of Poseidon and Euryte, a nymph. One day, Elarotheos came across Ares' daughter, Alcippe, near a spring, or Alcippe, Alcippe. Once again, pardon us, we pronouncing the word wrong. Near a spring. His lust for her culminated in rape. So Poseidon's son saw Ares' daughter near a spring and his lust for her culminated in rape. He raped her. Ares was livid when he learned of this crime against his daughter. According to some accounts, he witnessed the violation. Ares killed Elerotheos to avenge Alcippe, or Alcippe. Because Ares had killed his son, Poseidon took Ares to court for murder, which was the hill of Ares, the rock of Ares, known as the Court of Appeal. So he said, you're going to court, you're going on trial. The trial was held on the hill overlooking the spot where the killing had occurred. See, it was held on the hill looking over the spot where the killing had occurred. Ares Hill, Ares Rock, Mars Hill. Mars, the Roman equivalent of the Greek Ares. The trial was held on the hill overlooking the spot where the killing had occurred. The gods gathered in a tribunal and listened to both sides of the case. After deliberating, the tribunal acquitted Ares for murder. The site of Ares' trial became known as the Areopagus, or Hill of Ares. The Areopagus was the meeting place of the council that governed Athens. During the era of Athenian democracy, the Areopagus was also the site of a court that tried cases of murder and other serious crimes. The court had approximately 250 members, and its decisions were final. So now, that's a little bit more. Some myths tell an entirely different story regarding the death of Elerotheos. In these versions, a dispute began when Attica was allotted to Athena instead of Poseidon. Poseidon sent Elerotheos to cut down Athena's sacred altar, but the axe flew out of his hands and cut off his own head. So it's different, so-called myths. But you got the point. So let's go back to this webpage. You know Diogenes Laertius is, he was a Greek philosopher. And it says, I got another document here I want to go to. It says, this is www.abrock.com, to my unknown God. Make it a little bit bigger. You can read right here.
Okay. The most
Picturesque.
the most picturesque explanation for the existence of these altars of unknown gods is that given by Diogenes Laertius,
A Greek biographer of Greek philosophers. Go ahead.
who recounted that in order to relieve Athens of a plague,
What you'll find about that plague if you watch the previous shows. Go ahead.
Epimenides, a Cretan wonder worker, took sheep.
So this says it was recounted that by Diogenes Laertius, a philosopher, a biographer of Greek philosophers. So he's writing about this particular man, this particular Greek. And what did he say? Go ahead.
Okay, it said a Cretan wonder worker.
Right, read from here.
Read from
In order.
Okay, in order to relieve Athens of a plague, Epimenides, a Cretan wonder worker, took sheep, some black and others white, and brought them to the Areopagus. And there,
Areopagus. Go ahead.
yeah, Areopagus, and there he let them go
Try it a little bit faster.
and there he let them go whether they pleased, instructing those that follow them to mark the spot where each sheep lay down, and to offer a sacrifice to the local divinity. And thus it is said the plague was stayed. Hence even to this day, altars may be found in different parts of Attica with no name.
See, even to today, it's still altars there. Found in Attica. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hence, even this day, altars may be found in different parts of Attica with no name inscribed upon them, which are memorials of this atonement.
Right. So that's proof. Let me go back to the site again. It says, thus Epimenides gathered a flock of sheep to the Areopagus and released them. The sheep roamed about Athens and the surrounding hills on Epimenides' suggestion. Wherever a sheep stopped and lay down, a sacrifice was made to the local god of that place. Many of the gardens and buildings of Athens were indeed associated with a specific god or goddess, and so the appropriate altar was constructed and the sacrifice was made. However, at least one, if not several sheep, led the Athenians to a location that had no god associated with it. So there were many gardens and buildings in Athens that was associated with a specific god or goddess. Some of these sheep lay down near them. Some of these sheep lay down to a place that was not attributed to a specific god or goddess. Thus, an altar was built there with a god's name, without a god's name inscribed on it. Thus, they would build an altar and sacrifice these sheep to these black and white sheep, which in certain documents they say represented positive and negative, and the white supposed to represent positive, more likely. The black supposed to represent negative, more likely. But it said they were supposed to represent positive and negative in certain other documents. But they would go to certain places that was not attributed to a specific god, and what they would do is they would build an altar up there and sacrifice the sheep on that altar. But since that place was not attributed to a specific god, they couldn't write to Aries or the Zeus or to this, that, and the third. They would just write on it to an unknown god. Okay? Now, you can get, I'm going to read, you can read, let me see something. Read that again.
Okay, this, Acts 17 and 23. For as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I found an altar with this inscription: to the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship.
Right. To the unknown God. Now we read about how Diogenes Laertius, this biographer of Greek philosophers, which he wrote about Epimenides, who was a Greek philosopher. When the brother read it, it said a Cretan wonder worker. Now, Epimenides was a semi-mythical man. He actually existed, but there was myths that were attributed to him. So he was considered like a wonder man. It said one day he was tending to his father's sheep, and he fell asleep in a cave for 57 years and woke up with knowing about medicine and nature and with the gift of prophecy. So there was myths attributed to this man, which is what caused the Delphic Oracle. See, just like you gotta watch the other shows, you know. You understand it? What you understand why the Delphic Oracle had told them to go get Epimenides to cure them of this plague that they suffered by. You understand the plague when you know? Like I said, I was thinking about going into that all over. I was like, it's already on the internet. Ain't no point in going over it again. It's only 4 parts. You can watch 1 part a day. It's only like 10-15 minutes of your time. I'm right here. This is ChristiansInCrete.org, to an unknown God. Epimenides was a 6th century BC philosopher and religious prophet and a contemporary of more famous philosophers like Aristotle and Plato, who also referred to him in their writings. Athens was the subject of a terrible plague, and the city elders were at a loss to know how to abate it. They believed the city was under a curse because they were guilty of treachery against the followers of Cylon. Cylon, who was a man who won the Olympic Games in Greece in 640 BC, but in 632 BC he wanted to overthrow and he wanted to throw a coup d'état, or overthrow of the government, because he felt that he had ideas that could support the poor farmers. Because when you go into, you had 3 different classes. You had the ones of the hill, the shore, and of the plain, whose possessions being taken away from them. And if their possessions couldn't cover their debts, they were taken away and being made slaves. So he felt that he could if he was a ruler, a tyrant, and he ruled over, he would have different things that would be able to appease the poor, that would be able to appease those people. All right. And like I said, if you watch other shows, you can get more into it. It says they were guilty of the treachery against the followers of Cylon, who were slain after they had been promised amnesty. So they were slain after they was promised. Look at that word, amnesty. Amnesty definition. I'm just going to read it. It says, it pops right up when you go on Google. It says amnesty, an official pardon for people who have been convicted of political offenses. So they was promised amnesty. They was promised they was going to be pardoned. But it said they had tried sacrificial offerings, but to no avail. So they tried different sacrificial offerings to stop this plague that they felt that had come upon them, this curse that they felt that came upon them. But turning to the oracle for wisdom, the Delphic Oracle, the priestess said that there was another god who remained unappeased for their treachery. So they offered a sacrifice to these gods, but the curse still stayed. The curse didn't go away. So they said, who is this unknown god? The priestess did not know, but advised that they should send a ship to the island of Crete. Remember, we just read the last documents of the Cretan wonder worker Epimenides of Crete, and fetch a man called Epimenides who would know how to appease the offended god. Why did she want to get him? Because there was myths that was attributed to this man. They actually thought this guy was an actual guy who had spiritual power. It says, Athens was already known as the city of philosophers, but what amazed Epimenides or Epimenides, as he arrived in Athens from Piraeus, was that the approach road was lined with images of many gods. Didn't we just read that in the description of Greece? We just read the same thing in the description of Greece. Gods and so this actually happened. You know? Gods in their hundreds collected from the theologies of the people surrounding them. Epimenides postulated that indeed there must still be a God unknown to them great enough and good enough to do something about the plague if they invoked his help. But the elders questioned, how could they call upon a God whose name is unknown? Epimenides responded, any God good and great enough to do something about the plague is probable also great and good enough to smile on their ignorance if they acknowledge their ignorance and called upon him. Epimenides advised the elders to seek a sign from the unknown God. He told them to graze a flock of healthy sheep of different colors, some white, some black, on the grassy slope of Mars Hill, Ares Rock, Areos Pagos. Mars was the Roman equivalent of the Greek god Ares. Areos Pagos is Ares Rock. Mars Hill is Ares Rock, but it's in Roman. Remember the Areopagus was on the hill overlooking the place that they said the crime had occurred, if I'm not mistaken. And in fact, I should be able to go right back to it. It says, one second. Yeah, overlooking the spot where the killing had occurred, yep. So I'm going to go back. It says, he told them to graze a flock of healthy sheep of different colors, some white, some black, on the grassy slope of Mars Hill. He then prayed something along the lines of, and this was what this guy Epimenides had prayed. He said, all right, get some sheep, some black ones, some white ones, and on the grassy slope of Mars Hill. Then he prayed something like this. This is what he said. You can read this right here.
It says, O thou unknown God, behold the plague afflicting the city, and if indeed you feel compassion to forgive and help us, behold the flocks of sheep.
So it's saying unknown God. Yeah, you know, unknown God. You know, behold this plague afflicting the city. If indeed you feel compassion, go ahead.
It says, all right, reveal your willingness.
Go ahead from here.
Oh, okay, I just read that part. Yeah. And if indeed you feel compassion to forgive and help us, behold the flock of sheep.
This is what we're going to give you to appease us, to appease you. Go on.
It says, reveal your willingness to respond, I plead, by causing any sheep that please you to lie upon the grass instead of grazing. Choose white if white please, black if black delight. And those you choose we sacrifice to you, acknowledging our pitiful ignorance of your name.
Remember, we read in the first document, it said the unknown God was not an actual deity, but a placeholder of a god or goddess that they felt existed, whose name and nature was not known. So now you understand the history behind the unknown God more. You know? And continue. It says, although it was early morning when the sheep were at their hungriest and therefore unlikely to stop grazing, before long some sheep settled down to rest, and these were separated from the remainder of the flock for the sacrificial offering. Epimenides ordered stonemasons to construct altars on each animal's resting place. On each, following Epimenides' instructions, they inscribed the words agnostos theos, meaning to an unknown God. They inscribed the words. Read that scripture again. Inscriptions.
Okay, scripture. Yeah. This is Acts 17:23. For as I passed by and beheld your devotion, I found an altar with this inscription: to the unknown God.
This inscription on each following Epimenides' instructions, they inscribed. Read that part again. What?
It says, I found an altar with this inscription.
They inscribed the words agnostos theo. Go ahead.
To the unknown God.
Meaning to an unknown God. Within a week, the Athenians, stricken by the plague, recovered. Fast forward now to Paul's visit to Athens in the first century. Well, that's it right there. So now you got that part. So that shows you the history behind the unknown God. I keep reading.
It says, to the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, him declare I unto you.
Now, why did the Apostle Paul say him declare unto you? That was a pun. A pun is also called a paronomasia, which is, this is Wikipedia right now. We're on Wikipedia now. It says, the pun, also called paronomasia, is a form of wordplay that suggests two or more meanings. By exploiting multiple meanings of words or similar sounding words for an indeed humorous or rhetorical effect. So it says the pun is called a paranomasia is a form of wordplay that suggests two or more meanings. So when the Apostle Paul said to the unknown God, him declare unto you, he's saying you're worshiping the unknown God. But there is a true God out there that's unknown to you. Let me declare him unto you, which was the Most High. Because these is Israelites. The unknown God to them was the Most High. You know? So the Apostle Paul is saying, you're worshiping the unknown God, but the true unknown God, I'm going to declare him unto you. I'm going to tell him about you right now. You understand? So, you know, with that, that's basically it. Is more to that verse?
No, that was it on that verse.
So, you know, that's basically it right now. And rappers do that in these songs. You know, from a wordplay.
I'ma do the smoking, but he'll had a crackhead. The cat said he caking up. I caught him in the bakery truck. That's what you mean, you stack bread?
Say something that means more than one thing. People do that when they write poems. Say something that means more than one thing. It can mean one thing, but then again, it can mean another thing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just going to read this again. It says, the pun, also called a paranomasia, is a form of wordplay that suggests two or more meanings. So the Apostle Paul said, I beheld the devotions to the altar with this inscription, to the unknown God, will him declare unto you. Meaning you're worshiping an unknown God, but there is a true unknown God out there that is unknown to you. I'm going to declare him unto you, which is the Most High Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And with that, you know, we're going to close. I'm going to say, oh, praise to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Double honors to elders GMS. Shalom to you brothers out there. And Lord willing, we're going to wrap this up soon through the Spirit of the Lord. Shalom.
Shalom.